like I say, people are starting to realise the effects of fast fashion, and they're sort of wanting to get away from that a little bit, and sort of just generally do better things for the planet. I think people are starting to become a lot more like ethical and conscious about what they're buying. I think the second one is money. Nobody's got any money anymore, so they're sort of looking for cheaper alternatives to still get like sort of bigger brands and things like that, and the best way to do that is vintage and the likes of Depop and stuff. And then the third one, I would honestly say it's like a little bit of a status thing. Like, people feel very cool when they're like, oh yeah, like this is vintage, like I buy vintage, and like it's almost like that in itself is a label that people want to carry.
Like, I always find when you go to vintage shops, like you get a lot of brands, like brands that are well known today anyways, like, you know, stuff like Lacoste, Levi's, Ralph Lauren. I think back what we claim to be vintage, you know, 80s, 90s stuff, I think they were kind of, a lot of brands were pushing forward just to designs that aren't really pushed forward today, or are, well, like such a revival today for that vintage style. But back then it was maybe, they was doing something a bit different, maybe colours were a bit different, maybe styles were a bit different, fits were a bit different. And I think with a lot of fast fashion today, people are moving towards vintage, like clothing stores like this, like on boutiques, to just find something that reflects maybe them better.
I'm not sure really. I think it's sort of like, obviously I don't know as much about it, but my boss has always said like when he first started they did like what they refer to as proper vintage, which is like they did like old Victorian dresses and things like that, like really sort of like stuff from the 20s and things like that, whereas now it's more sort of like effectively you cater to students, so it's like, I don't want to say a more charity shop, but it's more sort of like branded stuff and like big sort of loud prints and colours and things, whereas like at one point it was just things that looked really old, you know?
So I guess if you didn't really know what decade or what generation you were listening to in terms of music, it would also be a helping hand when listening if you also saw potentially the fashion from that decade or that generation. So like a swing band, if they all came out wearing trackies and a t-shirt, it would be really interesting, but it wouldn't be stylistically accurate to what they're playing if they, like, unless they came out in suits and pipes and stuff. I think when it comes to stuff like live performances, it's not just about what you're listening to, so it's not about melody or tonality or harmony. I mean, it is, but not primarily. I would say primarily it's about performance. And in stuff like performances, you also have costumes, and what you're wearing on stage transposes into what the audience views. So like I know a band near where I live who are really weird, and so they come out dressed in whatever they want. Like there's a skinny 15-year-old white boy who's in the band who dresses like Tina Turner whenever he goes on stage and stuff like that. It's just it puts across what the band intends to do. It kind of accommodates the environment that they want to give.